All right, good afternoon, everyone. First things first, can everyone out there hear me?
Absolutely.
Okay, wonderful. That's always the first test. So, welcome to the first of the two series webinar, The Art of Mentorship. My name is Megan Salahin, and we're so appreciative that you took time to join us this afternoon. I am a member of AOPA's Committee for Access, Representation, and Empowerment. The committee is AOPA's newest. It was founded in 2022 as a Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Committee and then renamed this year. And during its first year, it determined its vision as well as potential ways that we could support the membership. So the vision is through its members, AOPA has a multitude of backgrounds, experiences, perspectives, cultures, and diverse thought patterns that allow for creativity, growth, and innovation in a safe and inclusive environment. Our diverse experiences will enable us to better understand concerns and create solutions. The goal of the committee is to recognize all differences brought to the organization and create a culture where all feel that they matter, are respected, and belong. We support all members as well as share our resources for professional and personal growth. In 2023, the committee issued a membership-wide survey to confirm what topics the membership would find valuable. And the committee is now providing educational resources on those topics. So to this end, the committee is hosting webinars or providing other educational activities every quarter. We've also been working to include resources in the O&P Almanac. So today I'm excited to welcome you to our fourth educational offering. And during the next hour, along with our panelists, we'll dive into the art of mentorship. During this session, we're going to explore different mentorship styles and philosophies, the importance of finding the right match, and how mentorship strengthens the future of the O&P profession. We're also going to talk about how to create more mentors, fulfilling the role of mentor, and the impact of giving back to the next generation of O&P professionals. And now I'm going to turn it over to today's moderator, AOPA's Interim Executive Director, Terry Cuffle. In addition to being AOPA's Interim Executive Director, Terry is also Vice President and founding co-owner at Arise Orthotics and Prosthetics, where she controls and manages all business operations. She earned her Juris Doctorate from Mitchell Hamline College of Law in St. Paul, Minnesota. She is the current immediate past president of the American Orthotic and Prosthetic Association. She serves as a director on the board of Minnesota Society of Orthotists, Prosthetists, and Pedorthists. She serves as director on the board of Wiggle Your Toes, an amputee nonprofit organization. And she is an instructor for the master's program in prosthetics and orthotics at Concordia University in St. Paul, Minnesota. She's worked in the O&P industry with contract, human resource, compliance, and organizational management since 1999. She's been an AOPA state representative for more than a decade and is a recipient of AOPA's 2015 Ralph R. Ronnie Snell CPO FAAOP Legislative Advocacy Award for her relentless advocacy work in O&P. Terry?
Hi, thank you so much, Megan. I'd like to finish her introduction to me by saying, and she's very tired. Just kidding. I have spent a lot of my last 25 years really dedicated to the O&P profession, working, as she said, as a co-owner. But now I'd like to talk about our speakers. I'm going to take a moment to introduce each one of our esteemed speakers with us today. Thank you all for being here. And then we'll get right to the questions. So Taffy Bowman, CPO FAAOP, serves as the Eastern Pennsylvania Regional Clinical Manager, as well as the National Residency Director for Autobach Patient Care. Taffy earned her Bachelor of Science degree in Health Science pre-physical therapy from Eastern University, and her postgraduate certificates in orthotics and prosthetics from Northwestern University Prosthetic Orthotics Center. In addition to the patients she has served throughout her career, she has also served as an NCOPE residency mentor and director for numerous young clinicians. Taffy continues to see patients daily, provide mentorship for residents and young clinicians, as well as assume management duties for a multi-site regional clinic practice for Ottobock Care. In addition, she has recently taken on the role of National Residency Director for Ottobock Patient Care and has been instrumental in helping launch a unique multi-site national rotation training program within Ottobock Care clinics for O&P residents. Taffy is thankful for the numerous mentors, instructors, and colleagues that have invested in, trained, taught, and believed in her throughout her career. And we have Kara Negre, a Master's in Education, a CPLP, FAAOP. Kara has over 25 years of experience working in the prosthetics profession. She serves as the Gainesville Practice Manager, Lead Prosthetist, and Residency Director. Kara's education started with a mechanical engineering degree with a concentration in biomedical engineering from Kettering University. She is a graduate of the Northwestern University Prosthetics Program. Kara also received a master's degree in education, which helps to serve patients and the community by providing educational content that is fun and interactive. She spent her first 8 years in patient care, gaining experience in technical fabrication, patient care, and patient education. She then worked for a major prosthetics manufacturer in clinical services, research and development, and product management and marketing in the US as well as in Australia. Kara has traveled the world, working with practitioners on patient care best practices. We also have with us Dr. William Alexander Jackson Ross Jr., who is a board-certified orthopedic surgeon fellowship trained at Emory University in foot and ankle reconstruction. He attended Morehouse College, Meharry Medical College, and completed his residency at Charles R. Drew University of Medicine and Science in LA, where he also completed a fellowship in orthopedic trauma research. Dr. Ross is a 20-year veteran of the U.S. Army Reserve Medical Corps, where he attained the rank of lieutenant colonel and served as a chief orthopedic surgeon at multiple combat support hospitals. He is currently the vice chair he is currently the chief of the Orthopedic Surgery Services Center and vice chair of the Department of Surgery at Southwestern Regional Medical Center in Riverdale, Georgia. He is passionate about mentoring and supporting underrepresented students and speaks nationally about the critical role of mentorship. He is proud to be the Director of Clinical Education for Nth Dimensions, an organization dedicated to ending healthcare disparities by diversifying the physician workforce. Now, let's get to some of the questions. So thankful that you have all joined us, our esteemed speakers. Let's get into a conversation about mentoring. As you are listening to it and have any questions for the audience, please type them in the chat and we will do our best to answer them during the audience Q&A. First, I'd like to start with Dr. Ross. What do you think makes a mentor-mentee relationship successful? Dr. Ross, you are on mute.
Oh, you know what? But I saw just when you said it. All right. First of all, thank you for the opportunity. All right. So for me, it's really in the question. It's a relationship, right? And so one of the things that is important for any relationship, for those of us who've been able to sustain long-term relationships, is communication and transparency. There has to be some degree of vulnerability when you're with your mentor and a mentee, right? So instead of mentee walking into an office and just saying, feed me, it's really, how do I show this individual who I am and what I have difficulty with and what I do well? And at the same token, the mentor really has to be able to relate to this, to whoever they're mentoring, their own path, their own journey. How did I get to this level of excellence? And how did I also go through the pitfalls that you may be experiencing? But communication and transparency, I think, are the keys to establishing, developing, and growing a mentor relationship.
Great. Thank you so much. Let's see, Taffy or Kara, do you have anything to add?
I love what Dr. Ross said about communication, transparency. To build on that a little bit, I may add setting expectations. I think in any successful long-term relationship or relationship in general, it's about understanding what we expect from one another. So having that continual dialogue on, what each individual needs from the other person, I think is important, key to a successful mentorship relationship. I also think, some element of fun or humor can go a long way in any relationship. So trying to keep it not too heavy or serious all the time, but figuring out how to
You're frozen.
Sorry about that. Are we any better now?
You're fine. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
All right.
Thank you.
Just incorporating an element of humor or, just being able to laugh with one another about things, I think is also important.
Those were the two things I was going to add as well, Taffy, is the expectations from the very beginning of how we're going to communicate, when we're going to communicate, and really just sort of giving them the understanding of like how I tick, I guess, like how my clock ticks, how I work. And then yes, fun, like celebrating those moments of joy that we have with wins, but also yes, not taking those failures so seriously, because I like to tell my mentors that failure is a part of our everyday life that we have to get comfortable with. And so don't don't be so hard on yourself, because you're going to fail like every day. So just learn to embrace it and see the growth opportunity from failure.
That is great advice. Thank you. Taffy, we're going to go to you for the start of the next question. What advice do you have for someone looking for a mentor or looking for a mentee for the very first time?
Yeah, that can be a challenge. I know, especially clinicians working in busy, healthcare settings, it can be a bit daunting to think about taking on a mentee relationship. I think it takes somebody that's willing to be flexible with the amount of time commitment potentially that they would be asking from their mentor. And then also just being willing to state the ask. Would you be willing to mentor me? And also being willing to perhaps compromise on some of the expectations of the time commitment, depending on that individual's bandwidth or availability.
Thank you. Dr. Ross, do you have anything to add to that?
So for me, a couple of things. One, if you're new to mentorship or you desire mentorship, one of the things I tell folk is to go to where the mentees and mentors are, right? For this organization, I mean, you have an actual push for mentorship. And so for people who are seeking that, then these would be the people on this call would be the folk who you've heard, right? One of the things that is important is that there are tons of different associations and places where mentors are. And then how do you vet a mentor, right? And the first thing that I would recommend is that if there's somebody who you're seeking mentorship from, ask them or somebody around them, how many folk have you mentored, right? What is your idea? What is your track record? What is your focus or push towards mentorship? And if people are lukewarm towards mentorship in general, then maybe you want to move on to somebody who's more motivated to do that. But finding organizations that focus on mentorship is a good start, because then you'll have a higher chance of finding people motivated to do it. And then as you are seeking out individuals to help you in mentorship, then one of the things is to get a feel for Do they do this regularly? Is this something that they are motivated by, passionate about? And then that kind of increases your chance that you're going to have a great experience.
Great. Thank you. Ara, do you have anything to add?
I think, I mean, yes, we are in a structured mentorship type of situation with our profession for the most part. But when I have sought mentorship, it just happened really organically. It was just people that I met along the way, and even, for short periods of time. So, I think it's almost like any other relationship, you're drawn to certain people that you might see speak at a meeting, and you might approach them because there's just something about them that you think that you relate to really well. And so, just let it happen naturally sometimes might be a good bit of advice versus maybe, forcing a relationship that might not be a good fit if both parties aren't, coming together.
That makes perfect sense. Cara, I'm going to stay with you. So, in what ways have you seen mentorship directly impact the growth or direction of the O&P profession?
Well, I think that our profession, just because of the uniqueness of what we do, it's the most vital part of our profession. We learn from each other. I mean, it did start as an apprenticeship or, type of model, and I don't think that that will ever go away, because we learn the things that the books teach us, but every time, a resident comes and asks you something, and it just all depends, and they hate that answer. And when they're looking for a solid, concrete solution to their problem. But it really is a lot of experience that we've all gathered along the way, and we've taken little bits of information from all of the experiences of all of the different people that we see. So it's vital to our profession, and I don't see any other way. And I think that it shapes us as professionals as well, because of how small our profession is. In a bigger profession, I mean, from some perspective, I feel like it's still fairly small. You really have to be wise about the moves that you make in this profession, because it is quite small, and things can, come back if you don't nurture relationships correctly. So, students might not realize that when they're getting into the profession, that we're all kind of connected. We all kind of know each other. So
Yeah.
it's good to like make sure that you're making those good pathways amongst your peers.
Yeah, that is really incredible advice. Taffy, do you have anything to add? Oh, you're on mute.
I was so enthralled with everything Cara was just saying. Could you just repeat the question so I'm
Sure.
sure to?
In what ways have you seen mentorship directly impact the growth or direction of the O&P profession?
Yeah, I really see mentorship as the lifeline of our profession. I think about my own personal journey and knowing the impact of mentors in my life. And I'm not so sure I would still be standing within the profession if it weren't for the influence of the folks early on, especially in my career. And then I also think about returning that at this juncture of my career, and hopefully being able to be a lifeline for the next generation of clinicians to be able to pass the baton and have them continue to be able to serve and care for our patients as I was taught how to serve and care.
Great answers. Thank you both so much for talking about our profession. Dr. Ross, what are the biggest barriers preventing people from becoming mentors, and how can we overcome them?
So one is really, for all of us as professionals, it's very difficult to not be good at stuff. Right? It really is. And so there's a tendency for all of us to shy away from the thing that we don't understand, that we haven't had experience with, and that we haven't showed excellence in. And so one of the things that I think is important is for there to be intentional discussion and instruction about mentorship, right? Because I think that the qualities of a good mentor are the qualities of people who communicate and interact anyway. There really is no special degree or educational process that's necessary for you to be a good mentor, other than your communication and your willingness to share your own experiences in support of another. And one of the other things too is the recognition that mentorship is not just praise and praise, but mentorship is a continuum from challenge to care. There's actually a book called Radical Candor that talks about this, right? And it's really the idea that when you see the person who you have made this relationship struggling, even though they're trying very hard to listen to and incorporate the advice, the direction that you're helping them to see that themselves in, and sometimes you're going to have to just be supportive. Sometimes you're going to have to share your own stories about the times that you couldn't do, or you didn't know, or that you had failed. I love the idea earlier about, we talked about failure. Failure is the lifeblood of our educational process. That really is what it's built on, even though people don't necessarily want to think about it that way, right? And embracing failure and risking failure is the way to accelerate education. So one, it's the idea that as a mentor, we need to understand that it's communication and it's challenge when we need to. If people have stated that they want to be good at this particular thing and they are not doing the things that are necessary, then challenge is something that you also do as a mentor. You told me you wanted to do X, Y, and Z. You're not doing anything, right? So either you need to reevaluate what your goals are, or we need to kind of reinterpret how we're assessing those. And then the idea that all of this ultimately results in a relationship that should be long-term and long-lasting. And then the questions that we ask one another also get a chance to be more involved in change as we grow and change. So for me, that the idea that we encouraging mentors simply means that you already have the skills that you need. And as you do, and you simply need to be able to be open and responsive to the people who you're teaching. Whatever experiences you have are going to help them with their own experiences, and reinforcing that as much as we can for other people who could potentially be mentors, I think is part of our goal.
Great, thank you. Kara, any other barriers preventing people from becoming mentors that you would add to that?
Well, I think, with our profession, a lot of barriers to anything new is time. We are crunched for time always. But I do encourage people who are considering being a mentor or a resident, preceptor, that when collaboration with a resident occurs well, they do actually save you time and they do help you. It is not just a one-way street. They are absolutely supporting me and allowing me to grow. I mean, that's like the most amazing part of mentorship that I've really gotten, is that they are coming out of a master's degree program with things that I haven't looked at sometimes in a few years. So, or more, 15, 20 years. So the invigorating part of mentorship does give you more energy in a way, because they are supporting you, they're working side by side with you, they are a helping hand, and they're also getting as much from you as you're giving to them, and it's a two-way street. So it's don't worry so much about the time. And then also, I do think, like Dr. Ross said, people think they might not be good at it, and they might not know how to mentor, but you'd be surprised that you step into the role, and these youngsters are very good at communicating what they need, and I absolutely love that about all of them. I'm actually taking a page from their book of they're communicating what they need, and so it makes it easier to mentor them because they're communicating very well.
Great. It's such a necessary life skill, right? Communication is key. Taffy,
Mhm.
how do you think mentorship can help address current workforce challenges in O&P?
Yeah, I think it ties back a little bit to what I was saying about it being the lifeline of our profession. I really feel like longevity in the profession requires relationship with one another, to feel part of the community and to know that you're not alone when you're facing adversity and you're facing failure and you're feeling that you just weren't cut out for this. Everybody has those days. So being able to be a part of a community, have those relationships and connections that everybody's been there, I think is healthy.
Yeah, great. I'll go back to Cara again on that. We're talking about workforce challenges and issues with recruitment and retention. Do you have anything to add? How
Mhm.
the mentorship you feel could help?
Well, I mean, I know that we might talk about this later but I do feel that it is my duty to give back to our profession because someone let me in their doors when I was a high school student and allowed me to learn and observe and play and get my roots in this profession. And so I believe that it is our duty to show others too what an amazing profession this is. So many people just have no idea. They think that we go in the back and take something off a shelf and give it to people. So I mean, yes, there's a part of that, but not very much of it in the parts that we have, spent years of our education earning the skills to provide custom devices for people. So, we just had a ribbon cutting ceremony, and people from our community came in, and just the general public just doesn't know what our profession does. And having events and allowing students to come in at any age that are curious about what we do is just so important to show the community what we do, and so that those students know what an awesome profession this is, and that it's unlike any other. So it's my duty, I think.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you for sharing those aspects. Dr. Ross, what are the most rewarding and most challenging aspects of being a mentor?
So let's start with rewarding. We're going to start with the good, right? And one of the things that I just heard, which is critically important, is the idea of exposure and then retention, right? And so one of the things from a mentorship perspective is the idea that, once I tell you how to do it and maybe get a chance to show you how to do it, then I need to give you opportunities for you to do it. And then I need to connect you with a community that expects for you to be successful at it, right? And with those things in place, then retention is a big part of, you increase the amount of retention. I love the idea of how wonderful this particular profession is. I'm an orthopedic surgeon who had no idea how to even order a prosthetic, and I would write stuff down, and I would get laughed at, and then I asked a prosthetist, "Look, I suck at this. Can you help me to not look like I don't know what I'm doing?" And developed a relationship. I asked questions. I went to his lab. I mean, I didn't know, right? I knew, but I didn't know. And then when I was in the military, I seemed like I was a knowledgeable surgeon. But I had somebody mentor me because I was curious. I was tired of being suboptimal, but I was curious about this specialty, to the point where this person reached out to me because of my enthusiasm. And I think that's also part of it. Your enthusiasm for the specialty helps other people to feel enthusiastic about it. One of the challenges currently for myself, and maybe others have experienced this, is intergenerational communication is different than it has been previously. I experience this in my home, but I experience it particularly with some younger individuals that I'm mentoring. And what happens is that many of us on this call perhaps grew up in a world that had no screens, had no internet, my big deal when I was a teenager is when call waiting happened. right? How old is that, right? And so the goal right now is that now we interact with individuals for whom screen communication and text and email communication is the norm. And if communication has to be clear, it really has to have at least three elements. You gotta have tone, you gotta have facial expression or body language, and the words. And text messages are only the words. It's the reason why we need emojis, is because I need to be able to tell whether or not, this is a happy moment or not. And so that has been an increasing challenge, is that how do I communicate with individuals when what I feel is adequate communication is very, very different from those who I'm trying to introduce, expose, and retain. And so still working that out. But one of that it means that there's some folks who you can reach who may be difficult to actually bring in or retain because the communication differences are so drastic.
Yeah. Great. Gosh, all just great information for us. Thank you, Dr. Ross. I'm going to stay on this, Cara and Taffy, if you don't mind. So we're talking about the most rewarding and the most challenging aspects of being a mentor. And for you two, it'd be specifically in the O&P field. Cara.
I'm not sure if I'm going first. I'm sorry. Um, all right. So, rewarding for me is feeling like I am providing that legacy of our profession to the next generations that are out going to, serve and care for our patients. So that is just, I guess, like the bigger picture of why I do it. But um, and then, challenges, I mean, they come and they go, but they're all usually because we have to figure out how we're going to communicate with each other and establish trust. I tell them from day one, I'm going to trust that you're going to come to me and talk to me when we need to either slow down or pick up pace, or you know so I give them the steering wheel, I guess, in order to come to me and talk to me about the pace that we're going at. And I do say I will challenge you, I will push you, but I want you to always come and communicate to me. So very much, I think, like Dr. Ross said, it is good to maybe read and learn about the different communication styles of different generations and understand that, just because they are using their phone to communicate does not necessarily mean that it's rude, like maybe my generation might think. So uh, and sometimes I think that they can get a little bit more courage, behind the typewriter than they can in front of you. And that's okay too, because they are trying to communicate and giving them a little bit of slack, And so the obstacles can be like trying to find that groove of how, each mentor is going to communicate with you, and coming to them part way, like communication is a two-way street. So don't always expect them to come all the way over to your side, like try to meet them, in the middle. And that is, what can help it be less, friction.
Great. Thank you, Cara. Taffy, so we're talking about most rewarding and most challenging. Do you have anything else to add?
The word confidence comes to mind. I know, especially when in our profession, when I'm working with a new grad, a young resident, the most common challenge theme that I see is lack of confidence. There's a lot of insecurity. There's a lot of, just not knowing, especially if they haven't really worked in a clinical setting before. So I would say that one of the most challenging aspects for me has been there's a various pathway for different folks in building that confidence and helping people develop that confidence in different personalities with different skill sets. Takes a lot of investment and really getting to know that person to help understand what's going to help make them more confident. With that, though, I would say that's one of the most rewarding things there is to be had from a mentor-mentee relationship, is seeing that mentee achieve that confidence level. And I'm fortunate to be working in a setting now where I have a board eligible that's working with me, I have a resident that's working with me, and I have a clinical intern that's working with me. So when I see that sort of trickle down effect, I've invested a lot of time into this board eligible clinician. Now this board eligible clinician is helping to pass the baton to the resident, and the resident's helping to pass the baton to the clinical intern. It's really rewarding to see that trickle down effect of the helping of building of confidence at multiple levels.
That is wonderful. What a wonderful dynamic for you to have in your immediate work environment. The next question we're talking about is culture, and that sounds like your organization is fostering culture, mentorship, and culture in your community. So that's how can O&P practices or organizations foster a culture of mentorship? So Taffy, we'll just stay on with you if you're okay with that, since you kind of led right into that one. And then we'll go to Dr. Ross.
Yeah, this is a new situation for me. I don't know that I've ever had this ideal situation of this layering effect of multiple junctures of folks in their career all in the office with me at the same time, and I'm loving it. But it definitely impresses me that the company has made an investment in that approach. So I think that companies need to be willing to consider the investment that it's going to take to be hiring at different level positions, and understanding that there is much benefit to be had from a clinical setting with that structure of different support levels.
And Dr. Ross, what about culture?
So let me tell you. So one of the things, and first of all, such a blessing to be able to hear people talking about this topic, right? Because as we recognize its importance, it's good to know that it's important for a lot of different folk, right? One of the things that's critical about this idea of being able to communicate, and actually to be able to communicate with questions, with vulnerability, is you get to establish a community of safety. There's basically the idea that now I'm in a place that recognizes that failure is a part of my development, or at least suboptimal outcomes may be part of my development. I have conversations, or I have the ability to have conversations with individuals who are ahead of me in this path, who can share their own experiences about how they overcame these moments. Confidence is a critical one, right? And it's the idea that if this is something that's intentional from this organization, from this company, whoever it may be, then the culture in that organization then is ultimately self-beneficial, because now I can ask my questions, I can embrace my own failure path, and then I know that it's okay, it's fostered, it's encouraged for me to share those same things with the person who's coming behind me. And one of the things that one of the beautiful things about mentorship is exactly that. When you encounter this mentee down the line, the light has gone on, and they're themselves mentoring other people with transparency and with open communication, to the degree that now they're evangelizing this idea that we can talk to each other and help one another without it diminishing either of us. But the culture that develops in organizations for whom this is intentional is incredibly beneficial, and ultimately more productive, because individuals are then able to risk more. I'm going to try on my own more. I'm going to explore the concepts more in a practical way, which to me is also part of the method in which we learn how to be who we want to be. So I think that in those issues that you develop an idea of safety, that you develop a culture where people can ask and not know, and you're going to be treated with the knowledge and the experience that you will ultimately gain. I think in those cultures, then the productivity and activity is off the chart.
Thank you, Dr. Ross. Cara, why don't you finish up with anything with regard to your dynamic practice and the culture that you have created and you have fostered every day in your practice?
Yeah, this is something that I think in the last like month, I've really realized how much I'm proud of the culture I've created in my practice. And it was very intentional. I will say that was very intentional about the vibe that I wanted. I want it to be a fun area for learning, and so I have like Taffy, I have a lot of different levels of students, I guess. So I have applied physiology and kinesiology interns. I have mechanical engineering interns from the University of Florida, so they're undergrad students. I have a Baylor resident, and I have a Salus at Drexel resident. And I also have PM&R residents, which is like the most encouraging side of like this dynamic team that we get. And so we are all coming together, solving problems. And because we have a term that I use all the time, a community of inquiry. So we're not necessarily trying to point out each other's mistakes. We are coming to the table with why this, why that. Could we do this? Could we do that? And it's all about trying to come together to collaborate. And that's the fun part. We have a bench in the lab that we all sit around, and we collaborate around this table with all of those minds and the ideas that come from students who aren't in O&P. Some of these students that are still in their undergrad, they have great ideas because sometimes we can get a little tunnel vision when we've been in this profession. So those are the moments that I love when we get new ideas from people who don't know what the answer might supposed to be, I guess. And so it's and we do a lot of things outside of work too. So it's not forced. It's just hey, Paul and I are walking to the farmers market on Saturday mornings, and if you want to come, meet at our house at 9 a.m. And that's and they all come, and it's so fun. And we all have our dogs and our group of people, and we get to hang out as well. So we are very intentional about the culture that we've created.
Thank you. My gosh, thank you to each of you for sharing about culture because it is so important in this environment to make sure these individuals, our residents especially, are feeling comfortable and confident in their endeavors. All three, I'm going to ask the same question, and we'll start with Dr. Ross. Can you share an example of a moment when you realized the impact you had on a mentee's career or confidence?
So I am blessed that I get a chance through interventions to interact with hundreds of students a year who are interested in competitive specialties. And so this past week, actually in Kansas City at a kind of a boot camp for individuals who are starting an orthopedic surgery program, I had one of the residents approach me who I recognized and tell me that something that I had said to her, and ironically, it was about confidence. And it was about, the unfortunate situation for most of our professions is that confidence is equated to competence. And they aren't really the same thing. And so for her, I shared the idea that if you concentrate on giving answers correctly, but also concentrate on giving answers confident. And we had gone through an exercise three years prior. And she came to me at this event, now teaching these new residents, and told me how it had changed the perception of her and her program and the perception of herself to some degree, by simply confidently trying to respond confidently. And we go through a whole exercise where you can say the sky is green, but if you say it confidently, people are going to pause and look to see if it's actually green at that moment. If you tell somebody the sky is blue, you say it with trepidation and fear, questioning, people aren't going to believe that you know anything if you don't know the sky is blue. And so her approaching me in this meeting to intentionally share with me this thing that we had gone over that had changed her own trajectory and her own confidence in herself is phenomenal. I tell you, really, that really is the one of the reasons I do this, right? I mean, once you have a couple of those, it is hard to put this thing down. So for me, it's the idea, and it was already reflected earlier. When you see the light come on, when people tell you that this thing that you tried to share with them actually made a difference, and then they report back to you what that difference is, best thing in the world.
Yeah, fills up the cup. Sure does. Taffy,
Yeah, absolutely.
do you have an example of a moment when you realized that impact on a mentee? Can you share one or two?
I love that story, Dr. Ross. That was phenomenal. This is sort of lighthearted, but it was recent. One of my current residents was telling me how she often talks to her best friend about the struggle she has in always knowing how to make the best decisions. And it ties back into that lack of confidence struggle. And she was telling her best friend how sometimes she'll just say to herself, "What would Taffy do? What would Taffy do?" And that helps her to kind of find a pathway forward. And so her best friend for her birthday had her a bumper sticker made that said, "What would Taffy do?" And I don't say that to kind of tout my own horn, but it was just kind of enlightening for me to think about. She's trying to take a pause and really think about, how would I do this if I were, 20 years more mature in my thought process to be able to tackle this problem. So I think it was kind of a fun thing to have happen, and we got a good laugh about it. We still joke about it.
Yeah. Oh, what a beautiful story. Thank you for sharing, Taffy. Cara, do you have an example or two you'd like to share?
Sure. I've had a intern from the University of Florida. She contacted me 3 years ago, and she came in and wanted to see what we do, to see if this was a profession that she was interested in. And in a little bit of a way, maybe something that my mentor taught me was kind of threw her in a little bit and had her start smoothing up a mold. It was a mold that I didn't need. And I just said, so, this is plaster and this is what we work with a little bit. Do you want to smooth this up? And 5 minutes later, she came to me and said, I'm sorry, but I'm actually having a panic attack and I need to go. And I was like, oh, okay. So I just figured I would probably never see her again. And I don't actually know if this is about me or it's about her, because she then came back the next week and the next week and the next week and the next week, because didn't tell her that she wasn't meant for this. I didn't tell her that she, failed or whatever. I just gave her the space that she needed, and she kept coming back. And so for her, it was about practice. It was about being consistent with giving her tasks for 3 years of her undergrad that allowed her to build that confidence. And now she's going to school with more experience than most people have. And she's already fit a prosthesis. She's already made an AFO. She's already made foot orthotics, SMOs, all of it. So, and she's not even started her program yet. So, that to me is just she isn't the type of person that I thought was going to stick with it. But the fact that she did is even more rewarding, I think, for me. But she did the work, by the way. It wasn't me. I just gave her the space to go at her pace. And that's I think what I've learned a lot mostly in the last couple of years is that you can't force some people. You got to let them go at the pace that's the most comfortable for them. Definitely push in moments when you feel like you can, but definitely give them some space to go at the pace that they're most comfortable with as well. You can't force them all.
Yeah. Thank you so much. I'm going to read a few entries in the chat. Leadership author John Maxwell has a great book out, Failing Forward. Thank you, Kevin. And Kevin also contributed Dr. Ross's comment of communicating across generations is very important to starting the mentoring. So I would encourage anyone else who has a question to please place it in the chat. And I will ask our final question, and I will start with Dr. Ross. Why do you feel personally it's important to give back through mentorship?
From the nature of the discussion we've had, and from these incredible speakers, we benefit, right? And the goal here is I benefited from mentorship in a variety of different ways. And the two-way nature of it, mentorship actually for me now is a continuum, because it's not only mentorship, but advocacy and ultimately friendship from individuals who, I wouldn't normally have tried to hang out with when I was a resident, right? And so the goal here is, and then the mentorship changes. Now I'm not asking maybe professional things, but phase of life things, right? How do I handle what I'm doing with my family? How do I get to the next stage? How did you transition out of this, right? Even though I'm not really asking that one so much right now. But the goal here is these relationships have benefited me not only because of what I gained from seeing other people excel and be happy with their progress, but what I gained from taking advantage of the mentors who I have, who now are more friends than just persons who show support and challenge. And I'm better. I am absolutely a better physician. I'm a better person. I'm a better husband. I'm a better father, not just because of the family and the friends, but because of mentors whose relationship that I cherish have been able to pour into me and help me through places and transitions where I needed somebody to challenge and sometimes even to care.
Thank you, Dr. Ross.
Sure.
I am going to hand it over to Taffy. Same question. How do you feel why it's important to give back through mentorship?
Yeah, I echo what Dr. Ross just said. I think to build upon that, I think knowing the patients that we serve, we owe it to them. I think about just all of the people that come through our doors in our clinics on a daily basis and how they truly need the services we provide, and the benefit and the successes that I've seen through patient care. I know that they need that. They're going to need to continue that well after I'm retired. So I think that one of the legacy goals of mine is to be able to foster that ability for the next generation to be able to take care of our patients and be able to serve the O&P community as those of us now that are doing it that are potentially going to be retiring in the next 20 years.
Yeah, such a great point. All right, we're going to wrap it up with Cara. And before I ask her, I'm just going to say my cup is overflowing I didn't anticipate being so engaged in this session, and I personally am so grateful that you have all been part of it. I wanted to throw that out there because Megan's coming in to wrap it up. So, Cara, please, I just wanted to add that as my personal, I am my cup is overflowing. So I appreciate all of you for helping fill it today. And Cara, please wrap us up.
Yeah, my cup is also overflowing. I'm getting a little teary-eyed after I told that last story because my intern will be, well, she's now an employee, but she'll be leaving for prosthetics and orthotics school in August. And it made me realize that our time is getting smaller. But like I said earlier, I do feel like it's my duty. Somebody, I'm passing the torch. I'm paying it forward because someone allowed me to come in. Tom Bremer, by the way, allowed me to come into his doors in Flint, Michigan. Almost 30 years ago at this point, to start my journey. And that to me is like the reason why I feel like I have to pay it forward, and let people understand what we do and give them the opportunity to learn how to take really good care of people. Just like Taffy said, like we need to, make sure that people understand that it's the care that we provide. It's not just the devices. It really is the care.
All right. Does anybody have any last comments they want to make before we wrap up here? I just want to say how grateful I am. And actually, my mentor is on the call, and I just want each of you to know how impactful the work that you do is and how many lives you're changing. I had absolutely zero plan of a career in O&P. So just know that you're just, creating all these sparks. And so I want to thank our panelists, Kara and Taffy, as well as Dr. Ross, and of course, Terry for moderating, and of course, all of you for attending. We hope you walked away with some new strategies and plans for yourself, in ways that you can engage in mentoring. So stay tuned for an email with more information about the next opportunity, and we will have part 2 of this conversation coming up in a few weeks. And then be sure to check out the O&P Almanac for resources on today's topic. So thank you guys again so much, and we'll see you on the next round 2. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Everyone.
Bye.